Good morning, one and all, and I welcome everyone to the 153rd webinar of the Saturday webinar series. I am Anupam Anand, fellow at Manage Hyderabad, the Center for Innovation.
Hello, can you hear me?
No, no, no. He was introducing and suddenly it went silent.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Anupam, I think we're not able to hear you, Anupam. Please check once with you. As you are introducing, I can get that, but I'm not getting your voice. Sir, are you getting voice of Anupam? Yeah, as he is
No,
introducing you. No,
not
yeah,
at all,
that's
not
what
at
I
all.
also feel.
Nothing.
One second, sir. So I think some network issue is having. One second. Ram, sir, you want to share the screen? So that time we will give you the access, sir. Or you want to just speak up?
I think I can share the screen, but is it like, do you expect me to make a presentation or?
So if it, whatever Rangde is doing, if you can able to share, then that is fine. Anupam,
I'm back. Can I continue with the introduction?
fine. Okay, so we'll be start with Dinesh sir and then Ram sir followed by that. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So the topic for today's session is microfinance and technological innovation in agri-startups. Microfinance and technological innovation in agri-startups have emerged as powerful catalysts driving agriculture transformations in contemporary times. These dynamic forces, when harnessed together, offer a unique synergy that empowers farmers, enhances productivity, and fosters sustainability. In this evolving landscape, the fusion of microfinance principles with cutting-edge technologies reshaping the agriculture sector, ushering in a new era of growth and resilience. We have two speakers joining us today, Mr. Dinesh Kumar Kapila sir and Mr. Ramakrishna NK sir. So, introducing our first speaker for today is Mr. Dinesh Kumar Kapila sir, who is Chief General Manager, retired NABARD, mentor, consultant, and a freelance. Dinesh sir has 25 plus years of experience in banking and microfinance. Dinesh sir range of functions across refinancing, infrastructure financing to state governments, direct financing to state-owned corporations, supervision of cooperative and Grameen banks, credit and potential planning for state development functions, and etc. As DGM OIC Kashmir and Ladakh, he introduced a wide range of entrepreneurship development. In Himachal Pradesh in 1999, he spearheaded the drive for SSGs with their Chinmay and Tapovan Trust. Post-retirement, he has settled at Chandigarh and is engaged as mentor to two agribusiness incubation centers and a vice president and member managing committee of the Society for Care of the Blind Chandigarh. He is also mentoring a fledgling social enterprise. He tries to encourage entrepreneurship too and share his perspective with Barrett. He also blogs and guides people setting out on their professional journey too. He blogs on multiple issues and take a keen interest in issues related to development, military defense, humor, the fraternities of us humans, and management. With this brief introduction, I'd like to hand over the stage to sir. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you first to Manage, Mr. Anupam Anand, Mr. Amit, for the kind invitation. Am I audible, please? Just 1 minute. Okay.
Yes, sir, you're clearly audible.
To my fellow panelist, Mr. Ramakrishna NK, a warm hello and greetings to him.
So,
the main point I'll come to today. I'll just start with where do I come from? I've always driven by the thought of Plato. Our object in the construction of the state is the greatest happiness of the whole and not of any one class. So my thought, my service of plus 33 years is all centered around this thought process when I discuss such issues. This issue is a bit of a complex one. We have a scenario of talking about agri-startups, technology, and microfinance. Where would I start from? I'll start with some thoughts only, which I have had over the years. While in service, we'll sit at various review fora where banks would be there of all types, cooperative, commercial, small finance, RRBs. Always I felt there is a gap in our review. The gap is NBFCs and MFIs because they are not on the same platform. Yet when I would meet, I am remembering some data of 3-4 years old. If the total outstanding or loaning even per se of self-help groups bank linkage program was 100 crore, say in Haryana, the MFIs would have an outstanding of 1100 crore. So that means that there is a certain gap which is being addressed and the market is already there. Today we can take it more broadly to the context of agriculture, but this is there. And NBFCs have per se, even in 2000, 2005, I'm just giving a historical context, I have found SRTO market was totally captured by the NBFCs. Their flexibility and ability to enforce repayment, I would say both parts, led to this. Just going with this thought, if you look at PM Kisan beneficiaries and you look at the number of land holdings, say in HP, and then you look at the Kisan credit cards, there is always a gap. Do you know why? Because the land holdings are small in bighas. So if by the scale of finance, the farmer is eligible for say 25,000 to 50,000 rupees loan only, then he say, I really don't need this much. I need more, but this, I don't want to undergo the hassle. Therefore, can microfinance address this? The scattered holdings are there, but with technological applications, can we reach out to the scattered holdings across so many hamlets in the hill states? It's there in Kashmir also, in Uttarakhand also. This is food for thought for us. Then what about vegetable farmers? They work along the river systems in Punjab, Haryana. They have their leases. They take small pockets of land on lease. They are unable to raise funding. Then we have microfinance a potential for even tenant farmers and marginal farmers who at the most may take half an acre or 1 acre more at times. But because they have leased it in, they are not able to access bank finance. Would microfinance look at this as an area of potential? Because many of them are into commercially viable vegetable farming and looking at raising crops on that lines. These are areas which we can certainly look for as we look at this. But it has to be affordable. Otherwise, we can stick to our traditional expansion of the markets in the areas we are familiar with. Then extension, can we dovetail it? I'll come to this thought later. Mainly, the thought process in my mind is agriculture by itself is not enough to conquer poverty, even if we scale it up in productivity terms. It has to be coupled with the rural non-farm sector. So if I may say so today, I would look at it as competitive agriculture and a vibrant agro-business system. Both, if they work in tandem in rural areas, they would bring about economic progress and bring about ample opportunities for employment also, and they will commercialize also. This is a segment waiting to be tapped. There is also a service sector. So when I say agriculture today, I'm trying to broad base it to say the rural areas as such. They present this opportunity. What about, say, look at service? The farmers and some FPOs are simply looking for a man to say, balance sheet kya hoti hai? Main isko kaise bana दूं? I am there to assist you. This is a gap in the system. Can somebody plug it by technology and reaching out to them? These are areas we can think of. Then, when we are talking of microfinance today, if we have some young people with us, my request will be, first, be familiar with microcredit, how it evolved, what was the purpose and the intent. Have a good reading of the SHG concept and the JLG concept. Understand its evolution, the mode, and then the emergence of MFIs. How did it come about? Don't get bogged down straight away into your training and into getting into the forms filling up and the loaning system and the loan book. Widen your horizon, understand the context in which you are placed today. That is what the youngsters should also be looking at. Because I'm told there will be some of them there today. I'm trying to bring this out. We tend to get focused on targets straight away. Think of this understand SAG, understand JLG. It is hassle-free credit. That is what the thought started from, not poverty alleviation per se. It's hassle-free credit. And we have to understand we are dealing with people. Dovetail technology into it, but we are looking at socio-economic profile of a very unreached population at times. How do we reach out to them? And how do we activate and empower them? These are the areas I would like to think of as important when we discuss this topic. And then we can facilitate agripreneurship, entrepreneurship, agripreneurship in rural areas through microfinance. You know, the needs are small, but nobody reaches out. A small shopkeeper may need only 50,000 rupees to cater to the people around him. But many a times he does not know whom to go to, whom to approach. So that could be one area to tap for startups and to look at this. Now look at our scenario. We have climate change. We are watching it. We have reduced quality of water, deficiency in soils, energy requirements, lack of biodiversity, fragmented holdings. All this is known. Agri-startups are working on this along with their resources. But can fintech and agri-startups combine with them? Can we have financial options of a higher order to improve productivity and higher incomes? Can skilled startups, power of technology, accessed by digitization, can they address the missing links in the agri-value chain? Products, technology, and services, these are the main areas people are looking at. How do we tap it? One thought I have, there are a lot of incubation centers coming up, which are there already in India today. Then we have a lot of centers of excellence in the rural areas. When I would visit them, even now I am invited. Zurute choti hain, especially if you go to the beekeepers, for example, at a Kurshet. But nobody guides them where to go. I have always said, don't only look at banks and look at subsidy, try and look at them. The requirement will be small. They need to start up with the capital and they need some degree of scale to come up. Would NBFCs or MFIs be a route along with technology to tap into this? And then FPOs. That's a good entry point. You see, they have got the memberships. Not all are good, but many, down south especially, I keep reading about them. They have come up in a big way. They have integrated themselves with some financial systems also, on fintech also. Now, they need credit, they need access to markets and NCDX, etc. Can startups, incubation centers, accelerators, microfinance companies align their goals on this? Can this be thought of? Can we have extension and agriculture startups and microfinance companies working as a common node? The microfinance companies have the reach. The agri startups are looking for a way out, how to reach out, and extension agencies need to reach there. Can this be a node? Can we look at it? Now, agri-tech as such, in many cases we say, its absorption level is low. But by 2030-35, it's a fair assumption that 50% people, farmers, would be quite conversant with digital adoption and would be quite okay with technology, comfortable with it. That is the word I would say. How do you have curated content, personalized solutions for this? How do we reach out to them? Can we align this also? So this is one area coming up. But I have one point here of caution. The farmers and our rural system need a physical touch, a comfort level. It cannot be purely technology and digitization. You have a presence, your physical touch as MFIs would enable the comfort level to be given to them. I normally advise agri startups, you must have a physical backup. Even if you have a satellite-based insurance, crop insurance, have a person on the ground to guide and coordinate. It matters. Can you have messaging on smartphones? Crisp, The size of the screen. This is the cropping pattern you should be doing. This is the interest rate you have been charged. How am I charging you in the local language? Going once a week, once in 4 days, maintaining a touch, giving that personalized touch to him, and having at the same time the microfinance taking it. It could gain a lot of traction in the rural areas. So this can be thought of. And then microfinance, micro insurance extension. I look at it this way: agri-tech plus fintech plus rural tech. There will be a blurring of boundaries as we go forward. Can we conduct pilots on this, on different crop settings, climatic zones, and harvesting seasons, so that as you align yourself or these boundaries blur, we know what are we looking for and how to go about it at least cost. Do meet local money lenders also. On my blog, there's one about Atmaram. You will realize how do they build their acceptability and their relevance. Not all are so usurious. Many have their uses also. So we must look at them, and then do meet agri universities and large corporates. They are also looking for entry points, even to sell their produce, not only pesticide insecticides, but FMCG products, but with care and caution. We saw the blowback in the farm loss. It was based more on apprehension. I'll be blunt about it. But the communication should have been maybe better. So when we want to do this, we must have our lines of communication transparent, clear, in the language they understand, and with an implied assurance that don't be afraid about it. We are there to handhold you, guide you through the process. That is what I'm looking at. And then everything is not the mobile phone. There are a lot of innovations required in processes, business models also. So maybe microfinance companies can tap this area along with agri-startups, along with technology. And coming back to SAGs, what were the main problems? A very good concept, but you see, we had a tripartite system: NGO, the promoting agency, the banks on one side, and the group on one side. So there could be a disharmony or a disconnect sometimes. Maybe the requirements were also more. There was patriarchy also. And I found then banks also have an attitude. Like one guy told me, I'll be frank about it. Sir, मेरा 5 crore outstanding है. मैं 50 SHG को भी loan दे दूं. What improvement does it give me in my outstanding? I'm sitting in a small branch, just 2 of us. I really don't see the need to go out for it. So this also comes from a mindset also. So we have to look at it. Then, interesting, when we digitize, when we go at technology, there are insights you get while walking around with people and talking to them. E-Shakti program, everybody may kindly read about it. The digitization of SHG is taken up on a massive scale by NABARD, my former employer, from where I retired. I found women were having a problem. You see, every woman does not have a smartphone. Now, till it was on records, paper records, how much she saved, how much she took loan was known only to her. Now, if the SMS alert and the WhatsApp message has to come to her husband's phone, there is a lack of privacy. He now comes to know what is going on, and then he starts interfering, which till date he has been simply thinking, kuch karti hai, 100-200 rupees rakhti hai. So when we bring in these aspects, we should be aware of the smaller parts which are equally important, even while we don't think about it, because we come from an urban point of view, thinking sabke paas sab kuch hai. It is not so. Rural areas have their realities. So we have to think about it. So one is that. Second is, there's a dependency syndrome. So from the beginning, even when you do your pilots, do charge. We should not be usurious. We should be affordable. And I will say affordable even later on. But that is one part of India. We still are not that developed to be paying so much. But the dependency syndrome has to be tackled. So wherever we do a program like E-Shakti, or whether we did earlier in SHG DLP program, if the NGO withdraws, the groups also tend to scatter or become dormant. They have to be taught to remain active on their own. 75 years after independence also, there is still a dependency syndrome in us. Sarkar karegi, mai baap karega. We have to teach people, empower yourself, think for yourself. Maybe that should be taught also by MFIs. Don't only look at the commercial part. Think of this also, then only this can be tackled. And then please read up on government programs, on budgetary allocations of both the center and state and their schemes. It's very important when you come to agriculture, rural development, MFIs and technology. You should know about the thrust of the government, where is it going with it, and what are the actual budgetary allocations and in which areas. That way, it will be of great benefit to you when you go on ground with them. And then field realities in terms of updation of data also affected us in eShakti. These are areas I'm just bringing out. You see the movement of animators, updation of mobile numbers, register saying something else, mobile number data saying something else. These are gaps which came up, which need to be addressed if we want to work on a massive scale with them. The last mile is what all corporate bodies are looking at. The collaboration between fintechs and tech with infrastructure at an affordable cost, along with government digital services, can be a real game changer. It can be used for a variety of purposes, for expanding a business, for inputs, for a lease of a small farm, expanding a business, repairing houses, healthcare. Interest rates, I do agree, are a reality, but could we have a small degree of optimization or harmonization on them so that we have a wider market? That is something we have to look for the balance. It will certainly release much more economic development in the rural areas. In the 22 minutes I took, I have tried to put this all in. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sir, well said. More than 25 years you served in the banking sector, and you
33
rightly
years.
pointed out 33 years, and you rightly pointed out what are the pain points. Still, these 17 years we are evolving. The technology is not that much handy as of now in the rural areas, but still, agri startups are exactly they're trying to find out these areas and they can overcome. You rightly mentioned the opportunities where they can work out. I hope this is going to be helpful to the agri startups who are looking their opportunities in this fintech. So I would request to participants, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box, or you may raise the hands directly, ask the questions that we will taken up after the second speaker sessions. So with this, thanks, I would request to my colleague Anupam to introduce our second speaker, Mr. Ram.
And thank you, sir, for the session. For the second half of our webinar, we have a very distinguished guest with us, Mr. Ramakrishna N.K. sir, who is a visionary, social entrepreneur and Ashoka Fellow, who has dedicated his career to driving positive social change through innovative financial solutions. With a strong commitment to addressing poverty and financial inclusion in India, Ram sir is the co-founder and managing director of Rangde.in, a pioneering social impact platform. Ram's journey in the social sector began with a deep-seated belief in the power of microcredit to transform the lives of undeserved communities. Over the years, he has played a pivotal role in revolutionizing the micro-lending landscape in India, making it more accessible and affordable for those in need. As the MD of Rangde.in, Ramsa leads a dedicated team that leverages technology and community-driven initiatives to provide low-cost microloans to marginalized individuals and communities across India. Under his leadership, Rangde.in has become a trusted platform for social investors and borrowers alike, enabling financial empowerment and sustainable livelihoods. With a wealth of experience in the field of social finance, Ramchal continues to be a driving force in reshaping the landscape of inclusive finance in India. His dedication to creating a more equitable society and his commitment to empowering marginalized communities through financial inclusion make him a prominent figure in the social impact sector. With this brief introduction, I'd like to hand over the stage to Ramsar. Over to you, sir.
So you are on mute, sir. Ramsar, you are on mute, sir.
Sorry.
You need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for making a part of this esteemed panel. It's an honor and privilege to be on the same panel as Dinesh sir. And also inviting me, extending an invite to this amazing session. Uh, um, so again, a very good morning to all of you and all the attendees. I can see 86 attendees. That's a very big number. Um, so in the interest of time, I'll just quickly go straight to the topic for this panel, and which is to really see how we can make microcredit. I will focus on microcredit as opposed to microfinance because we really have a very sharp focus on credit. How can we make it more affordable and accessible, right? So let's just look at some high level numbers. And this is not a statement on the institutions or the governments. Despite all the good intentions, if you look at the recent Findex report, this is the World Bank's financial inclusion database for all the countries in the world. In India, only 12.8% of eligible population have access to formal credit. Now, this includes all of us, all the initiatives, um, all the bank credit card holders, everyone, right? So, only a minority of India have access to formal credit. So, and it's a huge problem, right? As a ecosystem, as a country, we need to really look at ways of doing it. A lot of amazing initiatives have come. In fact, the Nachiket Mo committee report was recommended setting up of a differentiated banks like the small finance bank, the payments bank. Right? We are still yet to see traction for some of these new initiatives. But at Rangde, our journey started, way back in 2008, and prior to that, I was a run-of-the-mill software consultant. And coincidentally, I was born in Hyderabad. I'm from Hyderabad, and but I was brought up in Lucknow. My dad used to work for the railways, R&D of the railways. So we had, and both Smita and I, Smita as a co-founder, both of us were based in Oxford. We never studied there. We used to work there. I used to work as a software consultant. And the idea was very simple. The idea was to see if we could do something meaningful in the social space. And I know that there are many budding entrepreneurs here, startup entrepreneurs who want to make a difference. So I just want to talk a little bit so that it just gives some of them some inspiration. We had absolutely no background, no experience, sectoral experience, nothing. It's just that there was this really strong desire that we should do something. And we were also worried that, that if we don't do it now, when we are very high on passion, we may not be able to do it later when we may have the time, when we may have the money, but we may not have the passion. So, so we said, okay, let's take a plunge. But we did something very interesting. We said, let's give ourselves 2 years. So we thought that we'll gift ourselves a 2 year sabbatical to take a plunge in the social space and see how far we will go. And somewhere we felt that we'll fail quite spectacularly, and we are okay with it. But what we are not okay with it was that fact that no, that we should that we should not try it, right? So the idea was let's try, and it's okay to fail, and that really prepared us in many ways. Um, so we set a goal for ourselves 2006, but we did a lot of reading, research, desk research, and you can do a lot actually. Sometimes you wonder, right? Can we learn? We can learn a lot, right? As long as you have a focus, and we did all of that, and 2006 was the year when we had to pick an idea which we would focus on. And we looked at several ideas. But one idea which really got our attention was microcredit, thanks to Mohammed Yunus and the Grameen Bank jointly winning the Nobel Peace Prize. So our initial response was, well, Bangladesh is a poor country, they need microcredit. India is far ahead. We don't need microcredit in India. Honestly, none of our family members came from the banking world, so we were in our own silo. But when we Googled it a bit, we noticed that India was actually behind Bangladesh even then. And we also stumbled across an article on readerf.com which spoke about how borrowers in Hyderabad were paying very high interest rates. And this article was published in 2004, and we're reading this in 2006. It further spoke about how Some of them had committed suicide. So there was a big hue and cry and all of that, but eventually the crisis got resolved. But for us, the big takeaway from that was that in India, microcredit was a classic case of a product designed exclusively for the poor, but so expensive, the rich cannot afford it. Right? Because the interest rates hovered in the range of 45% plus. And on the other hand, we read this beautiful book of Mohammed Yunus called Creating a World Without Poverty. And in that book, he talks about how microcredit should be designed and delivered in a manner which enables the communities to overcome poverty on their own. And we felt that maybe we should do this. And coincidentally, 2006 also was the year when peer-to-peer platforms were just taking off globally. In the UK, Zopa was taking off. In the US, Kiva was taking off. They were really early days. And we connected the dots and we felt peer-to-peer is the way to go for India. Because it will do two things. One, it will create a beautiful alternative to traditional credit. And two, it would also help bridge the massive empathy gap which we have in our country. Right? Because unlike charity, which many of us don't do, and unlike investments also which we don't do, we felt that this could be a great rallying call for a majority of Indians, especially from the middle class, who may want to invest in somebody who is very hardworking, trying to earn or sustain a livelihood, and this person repays them this loan with interest. And the idea was that at some point, as they repay the money every month, at some point they may connect with this person. They may want to go on a field trip, go and meet this community, spend a day or two. And if that were to happen, something magical may come out of it. They may want to do a lot more because in a country like India, where we don't have a very robust social security system, there are many issues which need to be resolved. So they may want to do something about that for the community. So that was the whole idea, and that's how it all started. And we put our own savings initially, and did a road show in Delhi, and then and we were very honored because in the road show, many people loved the idea. And just to give you a sense, this was October 2007. So microfinance was at its peak in India. We were talking about making credit affordable uh, and accessible, and some people ignored us, but majority of them, they loved it, because those days the narrative in the sector was the interest rates don't matter, because typically a poor woman in a village buys a goat. Typically, that goat gives birth to 4 kids. So the ROI is 400%. So the interest rate of 40%, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Their point was that access matters, cost doesn't matter. And our point was that the cost matters because we cannot cookie cutter credit. Even in a group of SHG or a microfinance JLG, there is a lot of heterogeneity. There's a lot of variance in terms of the business they're running, their risk appetite, their own literacy, both functional, verbal, and so on and so forth. So it's very unfair for us to cookie cutter and give them a standard product with a very high cost. So that was our thought process, and people were very happy to support that. And thanks to them, we went ahead and launched Rangde in January 2008. So 2008 to 2017, we ran Rangde as a non-profit. And in 2017, RBI came out with guidelines to regulate peer-to-peer lending in India. In deference to these guidelines, we had to take a decision, right? We had to comply, and there were only two ways of compliance: either to shut shop or to apply for the license. We decided to shut shop because we felt that applying for the license would mean that we would have to raise commercial capital. And in our long innings of 9 years, we've seen how well-intentioned entrepreneurs, founders, have completely drifted away from their original mission because they raised capital which was very commercial. And And that drove the agenda, that drove everything. And we also saw the microfinance crisis. I'm sure all of us know about it. That happened because of the commercial expectations. Even though they scaled, but net it caused more harm than good. Right? So we shied away. We didn't want to do that. And just to give you a sense, by then, we had disbursed close to 85 crores of capital, 9 years, very small numbers. It took us 9 years. But the unique thing was we raised this money from 15,000 individuals from across India and the rest of the world. And we offered loans at the interest rate of 8.5%. So that was, the early journey. So we were about to give up, but thanks to our mentor, Professor P. Sudarshan, um, he guided us and he said that if you want to give up, you should. I'm not stopping you, but you should not give up without trying. He said, give yourselves 3 months, try without compromising on your principles and your mission. And that was a great advice. We said, okay. So we went back to the drawing board because one thing which worried us was how would we sustain ourselves? Because as a for profit, you have to make money. And the only way you can make money is through the interest the borrower pays, or so we can increase the interest rate, or increase the loan amount, or increase or do both. Right? And when you do both, you end up creating a bubble. And we didn't want to go that path. We've seen this play out in India and the rest of the world. We didn't want to do that. So yeah, it was a tough call. But we said, yeah, 3 months is okay, right? We've been on this for more than 9 years now. So we went back to the drawing board. We consulted a lot of experts. We did a lot of design thinking sessions, did a lot of research. And to our surprise, we discovered a whole new business model which had zero dependency on the interest the borrower pays for our own sustainability. And while we were doing this, many of our lenders on the platform, please remember we had 15,000 of them, they wrote to us because we believed in being completely transparent. We sent them emails saying that we may have to say goodbye. So they said, okay, if equity is what is stopping you from launching again, then we will be happy to invest. So we asked them on what terms. They said, you define the terms, we will give you the money. To our surprise, in less than a month, we raised 2 crores from 23 individuals without a term sheet. Now that gave us the confidence to go and submit the application to the Reserve Bank of India and for the license. So Reserve Bank of there's an interview process. I'm not sure how many of you know this. So when they were interviewing us, they said they looked at the number of FD receipts we had for the 2 crores. They said, looks like you've really worked hard to raise this money. आगे का क्या सोचा है आपने? So we had to give them the confidence that we had a world-class team at Rangde. And we said, we can build this technology internally. We don't need too much of money. And we'll run this frugally for the mission with which we started Rangde. So they were very happy in the end. And they were very grateful to them for giving us the license. It took us a while. There's a lengthy process. So 2019, we relaunched Rangde. Now at Rangde, it's, our mission is very clear. We want to make credit affordable by design, right? So our interest rates are the maximum interest rate the community pays is 8%. And we also give the communities the complete choice architecture, which is sadly missing in the sector. And what do we mean by this choice architecture? Their ability to choose how much, when, for how long, and on what terms they want to repay. So when you combine affordable credit with choice, it becomes a game changer. Very often they don't even notice that they've actually borrowed money because it's so beautifully aligned with their own cash flows. In other words, what we're really doing, and in some sense pioneering, is we're enabling outcome-focused social investing. Because very often in the credit land ecosystem in India, you know, at times, just nature of the, the way it's built, we are unable to dovetail credit programs which work for the communities as per the unique needs. So there's a scheme, they say that हम आपको ये scheme दे देंगे, आप इसको लो if you need it, otherwise you are most welcome to not take it. Microfinance, I think the lesser said the better. They are cookie cutter. Even today, sadly, the model is not evolved. Despite all the innovations, all the UPIs of the world, all the digital inefficiencies and all of that, the interest rates continue to be high. Also, last year, RBI issued a notification saying that the interest rate cap, which was set up by the Maligam committee, will no longer apply. Now, the microfinance institutions board can decide what interest rate they can charge. So, we clearly are going in a direction which is not going to help the community. So I also I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that as well, right? So what we're really trying to do is, we are really small, to be honest. We are a tiny David, really tiny David, but we're trying to build a narrative, which may take a long while, but we are happy to run this marathon, where we really want to give the communities at the last mile the access to formal credit at the same time, which works for them. So we've had many success stories in the last 4 years. So we just completed 4 years in this new avatar, and we're close to disbursing 60 crores. Happy to be around because the pandemic was a tough time. It was tough to navigate that whole journey because we were very clear that if it is not mission aligned equity, we will not accept it. So there were many attempts to invest in this company on commercial terms. We had to politely say no. But to our surprise, our individual social investors, every time we needed infusion, they rose to the occasion. And thanks to them, we've raised cumulatively 11 crores of equity capital, and by which we've been able to scale the platform and disburse 60 crores so far. So I'll stop now, but I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Yeah, definitely. Participants should be have some questions. They can put in chat box, or we'll take it one by one. But before that, sir, it's a really interesting and inspiring story for the budding entrepreneurs. I must say, the patience you keep. You started when the market crashed in 2008. It's a big clash for the whole world, and that time you think to start with a new startup. It's a really great story to us. Although the baby steps are there for the everyone, sir, you are reaching, and the trust which you shown the stakeholders of your company, that is commendable, because they are giving the gratitude what work you are doing for the community. I think, yeah, there is a very good case study, I must say, to do on a rung day, and there will be published in many magazines and the newspapers that will help to these startups. We'll take up questions. We'll move to the next questions.
Just
I think,
one
Dilip, sir, you
minute.
want?
I
Yeah,
want
sir.
to really commend Mr. Ram,
Thank you, sir.
because he has shown high degree of patience and commitment. Normally,
Exactly.
people don't do it. Normally, people I've seen who would beat me also, but after a year or two, they would fade away. It's not easy to keep at it day after day, year after year, and then navigate your way. I did say affordable, but then I'm a part of a system where we look at a large scale. And when you look at 140 crores population, and you look at 60 crores as the people who really have to be reached out to, you have no option but to design mass scale products also. That's one limitation which is inherent in a poor country like ours, even if we are developing, but there are problems. But all the same, high degree of trust you have created is a lesson for many of people, entrepreneurs and startups, that you are committed and transparent capital still follows, even if it's not going to get you the same returns as they would be getting from others. So really hats off to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really.
I totally agreed, sir, because fintech it's a very innocent stage in India. We hardly actually find to get good startups in this domain. And although, as Ram mentioned in his session, that it is evolving in India, so there are many opportunities in this domain to offer microfinance, especially villages, rural areas, and farmers and the micro entrepreneurs. So that is a really great story, Ram sir. And to keep the patience for longer time, that is what the lesson we learned from your session. You have to be patient. At the end, you have to decide for the sustainability model also. And also, there is always one trigger in your mind that government threats, policies are there. You have to be ready for the decisions, whatever coming from the government side. So that has to be ready to take up in this session.
Amit, can I add
To
one
come
point? One small point.
Yeah, yeah.
Any fintech or agrotech entering rural areas, it's not only Mr. Ram's patience, that person has to be patient per se in the field. I'm just taking off from his own words that patience not only has to be there as an investor for himself, but for the field. That's how you're going to get a grip on the system, get a feel of it, and build your acceptability. We are in a hurry. Scale down the hurry a bit. Enter the markets, but just have a control on your need to scale up so fast. Build that linkage, build that trust. The government also has programs. Why don't we talk of, insurance? 2 lakh rupees, but nobody is insured. My word one, I just went to the hills nearby. Somebody called me. I said, when there is a landslide or something happens to your area, you start saying, Sarkar kuch de de. But what if we had taken the small micro insurance? We could have at least done our job ourselves. Sarkar kuch degi, wo bhi dile. But we don't teach this. We don't go out and talk like this to the people. Unless we give this broad spectrum knowledge to them, tell them how to do so, guide them along it. If I'm only looking at my speed, it's not going to happen. So people must have that patience and that inclination to sort of teach also and guide people.
In the nutshell, what I mentioned, sir, the passion and the purpose, what exactly you're looking for. That's what the story of entire Ram sir is shown from the run day. We'll quickly move to our next session of this webinar, the questions and answers. I'll be happy to take questions from the participants. You can put in the chat box and you can raise the hands. I'll take the question from my side, sir. I have noted down even Dinesh sir and Ram sir, you mentioned about the GLG model. So if you can shortly brief about it, how exactly it is going to benefit to the individuals group and what exactly this concept. So it will help to audience also.
I'll just put it in a nutshell. Mr. Ram
Yeah.
may kindly expand upon it with his more practical knowledge on the field.
Yeah.
The self-help group program got more focused on ladies. Nowhere is it written it's for ladies. Kindly read the guidelines. But somehow it got more ladies oriented. At the same time, farmers required more credit, even if they joined the SHG movement. And at that time we had that ratio 1:4, etc. That if you save 10,000 rupees, the entire group will get a loan of 40,000. That was also an obstacle. So then the concept of joint liability groups came up. Be they artisans, be they be farmers, maybe tenant farmers also. 4 to 10 people should group up, stand mutual guarantee for each other, then go to the bank, and the loan limit was somewhere around 50,000 per person, per member rather, which was quite sufficient for the type of farming being envisaged at that time. And I can assure you, I found this requirement in Kashmir. I'm not saying that all government programs are having a problem. Yes, we do charge more. Maybe some of the products have that interest rate. But let me tell you, it worked. There was one Mr. Ram Kumar from Bihar heading a branch of JK Grameen Bank, Ilakai Dehati Bank, in Kulgam district. and he won the award at the state level for financing 50 JLGs in 2 months. Things happen if somebody is committed, willing to stand up, and his regional bosses also stand up for him. So the joint liability concept comes from the thought, if you can't access formally credit, stand mutual guarantee, a set of documentation has to be done. You have to build trust with each other. Then you have to go to the bank. The NGO has to take you there. The banks can also form on their own. The only gap which comes again is the bridging of the trust gap between the bank and the group. Even if the NGO is the intermediary or the bank has formed on its own, there is sometimes a tendency a default na ho jaye, problem na aa jaye. That is where the entire lacuna lies. And number two, sometimes the group is formed, but if you sit with them, they are still not totally attuned with each other. Thirdly, they should be homogeneous. Many times, somebody would be earning as a carpenter much more than somebody else who's also a carpenter, but at a much lower level. That sort of homogeneity and of being from the same nearby locality, if it is not there, it impacts the JLG. But otherwise, the concept per se is good. But we should not look for shortcuts. Even some MFIs, I'm sorry to say so, I don't mean adverse for anything, but it's a hurry. JLG bana do, loan de do. It should not be that. First form it, nurture it, teach them, tell them what does mutual guarantee mean, then go ahead for that.
True, sir. Ram, sir, you want to add something?
No, I think that's very beautifully explained. Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Yeah, okay, fine. So it's yeah, we also observe this very good model. I think very rightly mentioned the way how we can go forward for the GLG. It's rightly mentioned, sir. We'll go with the participants. Mr. Abhinav has raised his hand. He can ask question directly to the speaker. Mr. Abhinav, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, Mr. Abhinav, can you hear me? No, okay. We go to Mr. Sharat Pant has raised his hand. Sharat, can you hear me? You can ask the question. Hello? Hello? Sharat, can you hear me? You raised your hand. You can ask the question.
Hello.
Yeah.
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 So I have question to Ram sir regarding Rangde that to raise the social capital is a very tough job. So how you means build the trust activity? Which trust activity you run to build that social fund, because people not investing easily with any venture unless and until they will be convinced. So how you raise that platform, you raise that trust and trust building activity within the investor, and then they came forward.
I think thank you so much. That's a great question, and I would like to go back to what Dinesh sir said, that you need to show perseverance and patience, and it's a very Indian thing, right? When you do that, especially in the social sector, a very senior mentor once said that in the social sector, 10 years is day one. Right. So sometimes, we're very apologetic. We say that, we started in 2008 and, they said, no, you don't have to be. Right. So I think sometimes, so that actually quite, to be honest, we never planned it this way, right? Entrepreneurship, we never actually wanted to be an entrepreneur. So, that's a very, you know, controversial statement to make. What we were committed to was the mission, right? The purpose. And we felt that, yeah, fine. If we have to become an entrepreneur because you want to achieve that purpose and mission, then yeah, so be it. Right? And the same thing happened when we were transitioning from the non-profit to for-profit. We took a break. Um, and so when you take a stand, when you stand for a principle, when you stand for the community, and when you are clear about your mission, and when you can communicate, even if it is not good English, it's okay, right? People are watching you, right? So I think that speaks, so your action speaks volumes, right? So I think that worked in our favor. And yeah, so the other answer is really it's tough, right? Because what we're really doing is creating a new social asset class, a social impact as which is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. It's a debt instrument, right? Imagine you are giving a loan to a farmer in Rajasthan. Right now, the person may not have borrowed ever before, but they're getting this thanks to a great community organization on the ground. Perhaps Pradhan is working there. So they've referred them to the platform, and therefore, as an individual, I can be anywhere in the world, Indian, anywhere in the world, I can invest in this farmer. Now, imagine the impact, right? I now I've just enabled for the very first time formal credit for this farmer. Going forward, the local bank can say that नहीं आपको आपको तो पहले लोन मिला था हम आपको लोन देंगे, right? So I think so answer your question, it's very experiential, it's very painfully, it's tough. We don't have the money to spend on marketing and all of that. So what we've done is, I know it may sound a bit odd, but we're learning and becoming better at it. So we are actually getting people to invest by telling them stories. And so storytelling, I believe, is what is working for Rangde. And all of us, right? We've all grown up listening to stories, right? But now we are telling stories of people whose lives are changing because they got a credit which one of us participated and invested in, right? So it's very powerful, right? Because it's one thing we can blame everyone, but if we are getting an opportunity to become a part of the solution, then I think people say that they start taking notice. And this is experiential learning, right? So once they see the money coming back, that is when the trust in the platform becomes 10x. So they do not, as you rightly asked, it's not about that entrepreneur or their credit score or where the person is. No. So we are removing all that, right? So we are saying that trust the platform and we will take care of the rest. And what we are offering them is not guaranteed returns, right? Not guaranteed principal, high interest rate. No, nothing. We are promising them transparency. We are telling them good, bad, or ugly, kuch bhi ho sakta hai, anything can happen, but we will tell you when that happens. And that gives them a huge peace of mind. And all of us, right? It's true to all of us. We don't want to be taken for a ride. And I think that has held us in good faith and it continues to do so. I and Smita, we also write extensively on LinkedIn. We do a lot of storytelling on LinkedIn. So please do follow us on LinkedIn. And please do, if you are an entrepreneur, I think, by the way, this happened because of somebody, a well-wisher met us and, really nudged us to actually start writing on LinkedIn. So otherwise we're very shy. We're also entrepreneurs also is very lonely, right? So we are very shy, we're very introvert. We also get philosophical. We say our work should do the talking. Why should I do the talking? So we were like that only. But somebody really pushed us again, you should talk because you tell nice stories in person, but in LinkedIn you don't tell any stories. So we started telling stories, and in the last 1 year, I've garnered 10 million views. Smita became a LinkedIn top voice. Yeah, so I would say the power of the community is really, fantastic on LinkedIn. I would recommend all of you budding entrepreneurs to be active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. I hope, Sharad, you got the answer. And somebody's wrote in the chat box also that first show the results, show the samples, build that trust. It will take your time. Thank you
One
for
thing,
your kind
Amit,
words.
1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute. The self-confidence also comes along with the transparency. I have seen women who were talking confidently in the field after a year or two. It was my interest. It's not everybody doesn't do it. Then we invited her to the regional office. She faltered. Second time onwards, she was बताइए बोलना क्या है. I will tell my group experience. I will share how we moved up. I will share how we did things. That self-confidence when you watch is something to see. And when it gets coupled with entrepreneurship, if you can help that, be it a small shop or a tailoring establishment with 8 women work together, if you can guide them, watch the magic in the eyes. I say, I like to look at the eyes of the woman. If they are bright, if they are sparkling, it means they have reached where they wanted to reach. That is something which I always look forward to. That is what I wanted to supplement.
True, sir.
Amit,
True, sir.
Amit, I'm
Yeah.
really sorry, but I'll have to step out for another commitment I have.
I understood, sir. Yeah. So thank you. Actually, we are also done with the time. So to join with us very short time. So you join and giving very good inspiring story. So yeah, before we are closing this webinar, I would request to all participants kindly give us the feedback of the today's webinar, and also follow our social media pages to get the updates from the managed upcoming webinars and the programs. I would like once again thank you to the speakers, and yeah, I request to do visit our website for the coming updates. Thanks all, and thank you for being here. We'll catch you in the next Saturday. Thanks, sir. Thank you, Ram sir. Thank you, Dinesh. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you, Mr. Ram. Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Same here, sir. Same here. Bye-bye.